What does the CDTFA sales tax audit process look like? Sales tax audits are pretty rough. They involve large amounts of data. They involve complicated statistical methods in certain cases, and they involve sampling. And sampling gets tricky and difficult and can have great variances depending on what sample you're selecting from a larger population. So the beginning stages of a sales tax audit, after you gather your data together and talk to and have the initial conversation with the auditor, is the development of an audit plan. Most auditors in the initial phone call will want to get a preliminary audit plan together depending on who the taxpayer is and what their sales look like. So the auditor has more than likely requested 3 years of documents. And the goal with the initial meeting is to try and limit the scope of those documents. You want to try and present to the auditor a smaller percentage so that you can develop your own tests and make sure that the data you're presenting the auditor is accurate. The auditor really doesn't want to go through 3 years of all your sales, because in order to go through 3 years of sales, transaction by transaction, that would be tedious and time consuming. So the auditor is going to look for shortcuts in that process. A lot of the goals of the first meeting with the auditor are to go through the process and try and keep the auditor on pace. Very early in the audit, the auditor has to make a decision on the method of testing that they're going to use. The auditor is either going to do the direct method of testing, which is based off those primary source documents, or they're going to use an indirect method of testing, which is a statistical sample. The decision that gets made there, whether the auditor uses the direct method or indirect methods of testing, can make or break your audit. Depending on which method they use, the auditor will run their tests and will draft a preliminary audit report. After that preliminary audit report gets drafted, the auditor and the representative will work to clarify any discrepancies in the audit report, and then they will produce a final audit report. If the taxpayer agrees with the audit report, the audit is over. If the taxpayer disagrees with the audit report, therein starts the appeals process. So that's in a nutshell how the CDTFA sales tax audit process works.